afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome each one of you to our celebration of 20 years of partnering to develop teacher leadership capacity. I'm Debbie Mercer, and I have the honor of serving as Dean of the College of Education here at Kansas State University. And today we have the opportunity to truly celebrate a profound impact across our state. In the late 1990s, a group of trailblazers came together to strategize ways to empower teachers' voices, encourage advocacy, lead organizational change, and collaborate with their peers. What resulted from those early dialogues led to partner-based leadership development academies. And those academies are only stronger today. In fact, those same goals are still very relevant today, and I think Commissioner Watson would agree with that. To bring greetings from a state perspective, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Randy Watson, Commissioner of Education for the state of Kansas, a three-time K-State alum, and a visionary leader for school redesign in our state. So please help me in welcoming Dr. Watson.
Good afternoon, everyone. So good to see everyone, and what a great opportunity to celebrate leadership and the development of leadership, and really thinking completely different about how to engage leadership and raise leadership from the teacher, the principal, the superintendent level. When I had the opportunity to be here, I told my assistant, make sure that you absolutely clear anything that I was supposed to do this evening, because I want to be here. Because 20 years ago, this was groundbreaking work. Guess what? Today, it's still groundbreaking work. And I often think, as I go across the state, that the challenges that we have in school are solvable by Kansans if we all roll up our sleeves and want to really exercise leadership in whatever capacity and whatever role that we want to do. And that's what has impressed me so much about this program over the years and the various people that have been a part. But when I think about the origins of it, and I think about even the work going on today, and I don't say that from my affinity to Kansas State, even though most of you know that I have great affinity for this university. I really, and don't use this word lightly, but giants that put together this program and continue to put together this program, and so well respected across the state and across the nation. So it's just my honor and privilege to be here with those people today and with all of you that have been a part of any part of this leadership program. I want to deeply thank you, those of you that have been a part of this. Say thank you from across the state of Kansas, and again, welcome being here, and I look forward to the rest of the evening. Thank you so much.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is a real pleasure to see all of you here today, and it's my role today to talk to you about the last 20 years, but to take just a very few moments to do that. Nearly 20 years ago, as was just established, a very small group of people came together around a commitment, a common interest to the topic of leadership succession and enhancement of leadership for Kansas school districts. That small group was comprised of university faculty with deep ties to school districts in the state of Kansas, and also superintendents from school districts with deep ties to Kansas State University. I'm talking about trust as being the major thread that was binding that group together, and that made that possible to have some very difficult conversations about the future of leadership for Kansas schools. Everybody there, of course, had a commitment to leadership, an intellectual commitment. At the same time, everybody had vested reasons for being there. For superintendents, the compelling force was the shortage of extraordinary leaders for Kansas schools and candidates for formal leadership positions, along with the observation that the candidates that they were seeing needed a much stronger blend of both theory and practice. The candidates they saw had generally one or the other, but not both in the strength that they wanted. For the university, the compelling issue was the opportunity to have a living laboratory, to put leadership skills and leadership theory into practice in the same place seamlessly. And for both the university and for the superintendents, there was a mutual desire to watch candidates over time, literally a living interview by fire. Over nearly a year of planning, these same people met together in very intensive ways, talking about current realities, talking about candidate characteristics, talking about unique needs in school districts for their programs, and how an equal university/school district partnership could be a one-on-one partnership where equality was absolutely obvious in every decision and in every act. Those people are the trailblazers you heard described today, and many of them are here for this celebration. Their accomplishments were so great, as Dr. Watson mentioned, that I would like to ask them to stand and be recognized when identified and to receive our applause. From the Trailblazer School Districts, Dr. Mary Devon. Dr. Devon was superintendent of Geary County USD 475 at that time. She has since joined the university, where she serves as professor of educational leadership and, unsurprisingly, directs our leadership academies. Dr. Dan Young was superintendent of Manhattan-Ogden USD 383 at the time. He's since had multiple other prestigious careers, most recently the executive director of the Kansas Educational Leadership Institute. He cannot be here today, but he does send his well wishes. And Dr. Gary Norris, who was superintendent of Salina USD 305 at that time, he's since led multiple school districts in the states of Florida and Iowa. He could not be here today either, but again, he sends his well wishes. From the University Trailblazer side, Dean Michael Holland. Dr. Holland's support for resource-intensive leadership in the academy model was key to its establishment and success. It was his innovation and his openness to the innovation of faculty that made the academies possible. He now serves as Dean Emeritus. Dr. Al Wilson was a founder of the Department of Educational Leadership at K-State, coming here from New Mexico State to serve as the department's first head. It was actually his book series on the National Policy Board standards that served as the intellectual framework for much of the Leadership Academy's early days. He now serves as Professor Emeritus, lives in Nevada, and sends his well wishes. Dr. Kent Stewart. Dr. Stewart, will you rise, please? Was also a department founder whose support and contributions to the early academy model were vital to its success. He also now serves as Professor Emeritus. And a host of other names, other department members who could not be here today, all Professor Emeriti, Dr. Jerry Bailey, Dr. Bob Shoup, Dr. Teresa Miller, were all key contributors with supporting faculty from other departments, including Dr. Bob Zabel and Dr. Mary Kay Zabel from Counseling and Special Education. These individuals were supported by additional key leaders from the partner districts, namely Dr. Nancy Kiltz. Dr. Kiltz, who has served in numerous senior roles for the Salina Public Schools. Dr. John Kimbrell. Dr. Kimbrell served as the Director of Personnel for the Geary County Schools. And Dr. Deb Gustafson. Dr. Gustafson long served as a building principal in the Geary County Schools, now serves as district leadership coach while additionally serving as the USD 475 liaison to the leadership academies. And lastly, Dr. Clark Ranke, who served as Associate Superintendent for Manhattan-Ogden. Again, he cannot be here today either. And then key above all to the Academy's success were the students who took the leap by joining the first Academy class. I think without exception, all have gone on to enhanced leadership positions, and some are in the audience here today. If you were part of that first class, we ask you to stand and be recognized. The academies are strong today because of these people, together with the support and vision of Dean Debbie Mercer, who champions and uplifts the academies in unequaled ways. So we're looking forward to another 20 years. Please join me in thanking all these leaders one more time.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Devon, and I've had, as Dr. Thompson mentioned, the opportunity to work with these academies since they began. If Dan Young were here today, I think he would tell you this. Isn't it wonderful when the spark of an idea develops, becomes a plan, and then the plan actually works better than it was ever expected it would do? Well, that's what happened with our academies. An unexpected finding from our first academy was when the teachers completing the 2 years told us, you know, if I never leave the classroom, I will be a better teacher because of the academy experience. Well, we listened to them, and we shifted the focus to teacher leadership, building teacher leadership capacity. Dr. Teresa Miller, a mentor in the first academy, and I think her mentee is here. Where are you, Greg? She did a pretty good job, didn't she? She's unable to be here today because she's actually on the West Coast visiting her daughter, who's just learned she's expecting twins shortly. But she sends you her greetings in a comment in the section in your program bulletin. Today we celebrate district partners. Each partner district will be presented with a plaque expressing our appreciation. Those of you who know you will be receiving the plaque, if you would just anticipate that and be ready when your district is being discussed, we'll present the plaques right up here in front of the podium on the floor. And after your official plaque is received, if you'll move over below the screen, the university photographer will record that forever. So as we told Dean Holan, if you need an alibi for where you were on this day at this time, we will be able to help you with that. As we recognize the districts, please hold your applause until you're given the cue to do that so we can move right along. Geary County USD 475 has now partnered for 8 academies, including that first one that Dr. Thompson described. Graduates from that academy now serve the district in positions from classrooms and buildings and the district level. Dr. Beth Hudson accepts the plaque for the school district. Beth served as a resource for the very first academy when she was the director of elementary education. Today she receives it as the chief executive officer in that district. Students, of course, are the key to academy success. Dr. Thompson recognized the members of that first academy. We have a brand new academy now underway, started in January. So if you are a member of the present PELA 6.0, stand so we can see what aspiring leaders look like. Well, they did a good job standing. You did a bad job waiting for your cue to applaud. If you are a member of any of the other Geary County academies, that would be 2003, 6, 8, 10, 13, or 15, please stand and show these aspiring leaders that there is a good life after the academy. As Dr. Thompson mentioned, our district liaison there is Dr. Deb Gustafson, whose dissertation on the academy entered our program in the research annals. So we appreciate not only her early support, but her continuing leadership as an academy liaison. The success of this academy depends a great deal on the mentorship that these students receive. So if we have any mentors from Geary County who are attending, would you stand? And if you are also not only a mentor, but maybe a past member of an academy, you can wave your hand when you stand. Anybody? They're shy. Thank you, Alicia. Now we're going to thank Erie County for their partnership. Retired Topeka Public Schools Assistant Superintendent Tammy Austin guided implementation of the first academy there in 2012. The current Assistant Superintendent Billy Wallace will receive the plaque for Topeka Public Schools. The Topeka Academy began, the newest one, in September, so they've only been in classes a few weeks. They are here in force today. Members of the Topeka Academy, are you here? Will you stand if you are? Current Topeka liaisons include Mrs. Wallace and Dr. Bill McDonald. Bill, are you here? I know you are. There he is. There he is. Other liaisons there were Dr. Linda Wiley and Juanita Erickson. Juanita's not here. Juanita was a member of the first academy as a student, a teacher in Salina, and she's currently serving as superintendent in Neodesha, Progression of Leadership. Do we have any mentors from Topeka? Help me thank the Topeka Public Schools for being a university partner. One of our newest partners is Wamego School District. Dr. Mary Kay Siebert facilitates our academies there. And not only does Wamego partner with KSU, they also partner with another district in that academy. So we appreciate their willingness to cooperate as one of a threesome. Do we have students here who are in Topeka Wamego or Manhattan Wamego? Topeka Wamego or Manhattan Wamego? I know we do. Do we have any mentors from Wamego? Okay. You have thanked the Wamego district. Let's do it one more time, and then I'll yield the mic.
So just to keep the lineage story going, Juanita Erickson has 2 daughters that are presently enrolled in the Topeka Academy. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Right? That's cool. It's been my honor and privilege to work with the academies from the school district perspective and from the university perspective. In 2002, when I was superintendent at Rock Creek, I accepted an invitation from Dr. Jerry Bailey to team with the Marysville School District and Randy Bagby to develop and lead a leadership academy. I didn't have a clue what that meant, but it kind of sounded like fun, so I said, what the heck, let's give it a shot. And a year later, we launched the academy for Rock Creek and Marysville. In some ways, it was a precursor to the academies that we presently are using today, but still had a very strong emphasis on teaming, technology, brain-based learning, and leadership. Mr. Scott Harshbarger, a student in that first academy and current principal at Westmoreland Elementary School in the Rock Creek District, is here to accept the plaque on behalf of Rock Creek. In 2017, I was once again invited to participate in the planning of an academy, this time for Shawnee Mission. This was at a time when I was still superintendent in Lawrence, and I got involved in my last semester there. I was privileged to work with Dr. Devon and Christy Ziegler, who can't be here today, to tailor the new model for Shawnee Mission. This was part of a larger, and is part of a larger collaboration between K-State and Shawnee Mission. We're in our second year of the academy. It feels like we are just hurling toward graduation in the spring. I don't know if the students feel that way. I certainly do. Dr. Michael Schumacher is here to accept the plaque for Shawnee Mission. And I know that we have Shawnee Mission students in the crowd, so stand up and be recognized.
I have the honor and pleasure to talk about the Manhattan Academies. And I'm relatively new to this, but my experience with Manhattan Academy itself just started just a few weeks ago. And so it's my honor and pleasure to be here doing that. Accepting the plaque on behalf of Manhattan Ogden is Lacey Sell, who is Executive Director of Administration, Teaching and Leadership, or Curriculum Instruction, one of those, or all of those. As you can see from the history, the Manhattan School District was involved, and Dr. Thompson had discussed the 2000. They also had an academy in 2005, 2015, which recently graduated, and then our new group. So if you were a member, let's save the new group for last here. If you were a member of a graduating academy, could you please stand? Anyone here? And then we have our new group, which is actually a merged group with Manhattan Ogden School District, Wamego, and Rock Creek. And I'm learning about Creekers all the time now, so I did not know about Creekers. So would you please stand? We also had liaisons over the years, and we had Karen Roberts. I don't know if Karen's here, and Dr. Jeannie Disney. If you are here, would you please stand? I know Jeannie was here earlier. I guess she's not here now. We had visiting instructors, Deb Hauser and Deb North. Are you either of you here? Okay, well, that's good. We also had Dr. Teresa Miller, who I had the pleasure to meet when I first came to Kansas State. She not only was a mentor to me, but she was a great teacher and instructor for the academies and a great proponent. And I know Teresa would have loved to have been here, but she could not be here with new babies on the way. So lastly, mentors. If you were a mentor in these academies, would you please stand? I know we have some mentors, and they've worked all the way up. So. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Donna Augustine Shaw, and I have the opportunity to recognize 3 of our partnership districts this afternoon. The Salina School District has had 5 academies, starting in 2000, followed by 2008, 2011, 2015, and we just started one this fall, 2018. They have had 62 students complete in their academies. Mrs. Shanna Rector is here this afternoon to receive the plaque on behalf of the district. Shanna has been involved in at least 3 academies. She is committed to the mission of teacher leadership development in the district, and she is serving as our current liaison in Salina. I'd also like to recognize Dr. Nancy Kiltz, who has served as the district liaison in the Salina School District for 4 academies. If she would also stand, and let's recognize the Salina School District. Thank you. Do we have any mentors or students from the Salina Academies here this afternoon? All right, thank you. As both Dr. Devon and Dr. Hachia recognized, Dr. Teresa Miller has been instrumental in both the Salina and the Dodge City Academies, serving as a mentor, a liaison, a university faculty member, and her leadership in those 2 sites, those districts, has been appreciated and certainly very key in their development. Next, I'd like to recognize Dodge City. They have had 3 academies, 2007, 2011, and 2016. That academy just graduated this past summer. They have had 55 students complete in their academies. This afternoon, it's my privilege to introduce Dr. Fred Dirksen, the superintendent of schools. Fred has been very supportive of the academy and the partnership in this last academy with Garden City. He made a very short 4.5-hour drive this afternoon to be with us. Would you please recognize Dr. Dirksen? Thank you. I'd also like to recognize Judy Beatles Miller. She is here today, served as a past liaison for many years in Dodge City. Dr. Greg Springsteen, also a past liaison. Amy Loader and Martha Mendoza were past academy students. They are now principals in the Dodge City District, and they are now serving as our liaisons in Dodge City. And in fact, it's Mrs. Mendoza's initiative that actually planted the first seed for Kansas State to go out west and partner with Dodge City in that beginning academy. I don't believe we have any Dodge City mentors or students here, so would you please recognize the district, Dr. Fred Zerkson, and again, Judy Beatles-Miller for their attendance today. Thank you. We have a faculty member I'd like to stop and recognize, Dr. Jia Liang. She is in the current faculty at the Department of Educational Leadership here at K-State. She serves as a guest speaker across many of our academies to enhance students' understanding of research and the application in the content that we build into our academies. So a round of applause for Dr. Liang, please. Lastly, I'd like to recognize Garden City. They have had 2 academies. In 2005, they had a blended academy with Manhattan, and as I mentioned, in 2016 began that first partnership with Dodge City. So that academy started in 2016 and just graduated this past summer. They have had 23 students in their academies. Dr. Steve Carlin, Superintendent of Schools, was not able to be here today, but again, very supportive of the academy model and the partnership that we have with Dodge City. Other district leaders from Garden have been Jim Lentz, Julie Ford, and Shelley Kiblinger. Leanne Roderick recently retired, but she served as our liaison in the past Garden City, Dodge City Academy. Again, because of the distance, I don't believe we have mentors or students from Garden here, but let's acknowledge the Garden City partnership for Dr. Carlin and his district. I always tell people that being part of the academy model is one of the most rewarding professional experiences that I've had the opportunity to be part of. So I have been privileged to work with these districts, these fine educators, as we develop teacher leadership and leadership in their districts, and I look forward to our continued partnership work. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alex Redcorn, and I'm up here representing the Osage Nation today, which is one of the more recent academy partnerships that came out of this partnership academy model. So I was kind of looking at the program before me, and I was looking at all the, what I think it's more like power, as Dr. Watson's talked about the giants that kind of created this program. Being able to be on this program, on this list as one of the latest additions to the academy model is it's an honor to be able to do that. And it's an honor to be able to work with these people, because all the people on this list are actually my mentors as well, because I'm a recent graduate of the Ed Leadership Programming. But I wanted to kind of talk about, so Dr. Dole talked about the lineage story. So basically the Osage Nation is kind of one of the more recent twists in the academy model history. So some of you might be thinking, what is the Osage Nation? Where is it? So the Osage Nation is a tribal nation, one of 573 federally recognized tribes across the United States. And we're just across the boundary in Oklahoma. We actually have a lot of history in Kansas. And so when we first approached this idea, it was kind of, when we talk about really groundbreaking and change, like just a totally different approach, Dr. Thompson and Dean Mercer weren't scared at all. And the Osage Nation doesn't even have, we don't even operate our own schools, yet we have a desire to. And they were not scared about crossing state lines. They knew that the structure of the program was flexible enough to be able to be adaptable to certain locales. And we are such a unique situation. It was very refreshing to find find leaders like this who were able to allow this to happen, and really didn't just allow it to happen. They did whatever they could to help make it happen and do it the right way. And that allowed for a very unique, culturally responsive leadership academy that was rooted in Osage needs. Just like the district academy models are rooted in the district needs, we were able to root that in Osage needs. And it really came out to be a really powerful program. And like Garden City, it's quite a ways to the Osage Nation. So a lot of the students weren't able to be here today. And I'm here to accept this for the Osage Nation. But it's real customary in Osage Nation to make sure we show appreciation. And I know that Chief Standing Bearer, Melvina Prater, the liaison, are very grateful that this was able to happen, because just this last summer we had 9 educational leadership graduates in the Osage Nation, specifically for the Osage Nation. And it was a very powerful program that a lot of people were in Indian country across the nation were excited to see. So I want to say thank you.
The Osage Nation will want proof that we did have a plaque, and we gave it to Dr. Redcorn, so that picture becomes our evidence. It's my pleasure to introduce our special guest today, but before I do that, there's some housekeeping things. I hope you all had a chance to pick up a program. It has some memorabilia in it we hope you will enjoy. Some you may recognize. Fortunately, we didn't identify the source. We didn't put people's names on either pictures or comments, so you're okay. You also on the table have copies of an educational consideration issue that featured the history and development of the Academy. So if you would like to have one of those, you're welcome to take that. I think we have plenty. If there's not enough on your table, look around. Trying to read my writing here. For those who have been in an academy, whether it's past or present, as you leave today, we'd be glad for you to take a Wildcat lapel pin home with you, like the one I'm wearing. You can see the person that introduced your district, and that person will have pins for students from that location. So that will be it. That will tell everybody, that will label you as a member of the Kansas State University family. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest. For students in our academies, Linda Lambert needs no introduction. They know her work. For others, her very impressive bio is in your program booklet. And many of you spent the day with her, experiencing her expertise firsthand. So we appreciate very much the opportunity we've had to actually meet face-to-face with the person whose work we have been using regularly for almost 20 years. You might notice, and she mentioned this briefly this morning, that she's also a successful author of some historical fiction novels. This summer, I had the opportunity to read the 3 things that are part of the trilogy, and I learned so much about the culture and the history of Egypt, of Italy, and even of the culture in Taos, New Mexico. So it's lots of fun, but a real informative read. Well, the students don't need an introduction, they already know, but I'm not going to spend time telling you about the information in her bio. I'm going to tell you why we are honoring her work today. So, Dr. Lambert, these comments are to you. The reason we're recognizing you is first because since 2003, your book, Leadership Capacity for Lasting School Improvement, has not only been required reading, it's formed the bedrock of our understanding of teacher leadership and an effort to develop the skills that we call teacher leadership. We continue to use that rubric for emerging teacher leadership that's in your 2003 appendix. For student self-assessment of growth, they measure themselves at the beginning, at the midpoint of the 2-year program, at the end. Their goal is to be members in that independent collaborative column on the far right. For the newest academies, we've shifted to the 2015 book, which you said was a sequel, and that's what I had called it too. It's been very well received by our students, very informative, and carries through with the same concepts on which we based our original program. And even before today, our students knew well what those 4 archetypes were when you were talking about them and how they can be used to bring real collaborative success into our schools. So before I turn the microphone over to you, I'd like for you to come up. we'd like to present you with a Trailblazer Award because you truly are a trailblazer for teacher leadership. The award, if you can't see it, is a strong column with the globe on the top, recognizing the strength of her work and the far-reaching impact that her work has had on others. It's inscribed, Dr. Linda Lambert, Trailblazer for Teacher Leadership, September 2018, Kansas State University. One more thing before I give the microphone.
Okay.
In addition, recognizing your work here, because you're going to take this home.
Yes.
In the foyer, you may have noticed a nice perpetual plaque that has a plate for each of our district partners. And as we continue to work with districts, we will continue to add plates representing that collaborative effort to develop teacher leadership. The plate on the plaque is engraved. Leading is a form of learning together. Linda Lambert, 2003. All yours.
Oh my. I am very touched and moved by this. Almost leaves me speechless. And if you were here today, you'd probably wonder about that. And Mary asked me to make a few comments on the ideas in my work that have influenced the direction of my work and my writing over the last several years. But I just want you to know, and Mary, I am so touched and pleased, and I'm so honored to be here with you at this special event, at this 20th year. I know of no other program that's accomplished what you have. And that, you know, I know of programs that have gone on for 8 or 10 years, but the partnership with your districts and the partnership with the layers of mentoring and relationships you have, and the partnerships that bring the university and schools together is truly unique in its durability and its sustainability. Well, Mary did ask me to make a few comments, and so I have about an hour and a half here to talk. I just have a few notes that I want to share with you. In 1920, my mother, who, by the way, her name was Lucretia, she's a character in my novels, and I cast her in my novels for the life she would have liked to have led. So that was partially how I've honored her in these years. She won the Cherokee County, Kansas Spelling Bee in 1920. She was an 8th grader. The winning word was Erie. She finished school that year at the end of the 8th grade, and she was advised after she fell off her horse that she need not go on. After all, she probably wouldn't need an education anyway. In the next county over, my father had been farming for 4 years already because his father thought you only need to go to the 3rd grade in order to learn to read. That's all you need. And so after the 3rd grade, he and his siblings were brought back onto the farm to work. My parents met in Chicago in 1930 when they went there to get work during the Depression. And they probably wisely waited till 1939 to have their first child. So if you figure that out, that makes me 80 on my birthday. It's hard to believe. We kind of feel the way age is, you know, I'm still responding to this so much, I'm almost, age is how you feel, isn't it? And it's how you see the world, I hope. My mother was a learner, a mentor, an artist, and a woman who asked questions. It's that last part that was really key. Self-educated, And I'm sure that I disappointed her when I got married early, had children early, and I'm sure she was convinced that I would not go on for my education. However, she and I never lost sight that women need to accomplish all they can possibly do. And so 63 years later, after that county spelling bee, I received my doctorate at the University of San Francisco. And she decided that maybe I would do all right anyway. By the time I'd been in several different careers and gotten my doctorate, these experiences, and I must say critical theory on my dissertation, helped me to begin thinking about writing books. I was involved in several chapters and articles early on, but it wasn't until after we moved to Egypt for a couple of years that the patterns began to fall together, and everything I'd learned up to that point began to fall together in kind of patterns. And so then the first book came out in 1995, and that was called The Constructivist Leader. So now I'll start upon what I think are the major ideas that have influenced and propelled my life. Constructivism had been a significant part of my thinking for decades by the time I wrote The Constructivist Leader in 1995. I think I told some of you today that there'd been a conversation in Kentucky about how you define leadership, and up on the chartboards around the room were flying these words that leadership is telling the truth. Leadership is being able to facilitate something. Leadership is being a good communicator or having high integrity. In other words, all the words that came up around the room had to do with the discrete set of behaviors and skills of an individual who was in a leadership position with formal authority. And that's when it really, my first major epiphany about this work, that the way we define leadership had put a boundary, a wall around how we saw the world. And it had kept a lot of people out. Particularly, it had kept teachers out of the process because the way leadership was being defined was much too restrictive. Along with that came the nature of organic change and how change really occurs, and it occurs when we as educators, as thinkers, look into our practice and learn something unique, have our own epiphanies, and feel like now I understand something I didn't understand before, and now I can move forward and lend my voice to being as much as I can be, to contribute to others, to mentoring others, to be part of a world in which we are all capable, responsible, and have the right to lead. And I think that's true across the board. So how we define it. The third major part of these ideas, I think, if I can find my papers well, has to do with leadership capacity, and that's the work you know more. By that time, I'd worked in the Middle East and other third world countries. They would never forgive me for calling Egypt a third world country. Mark that, I'm out. And learned about capacity building, which had been around since the Middle Ages. The notion of if somebody is an intern or somebody's an apprentice, it will build their capacity for the work and the internships that you're beginning to do, and the mentorship that you're doing is real capacity building at its most basic. And it came through the Peace Corps later on in international development. So what I did was link my work in capacity building with the work in leadership and realized that leadership capacity organizationally was when we take a look at the participation flow or pattern and the depth of skillfulness. And when you put those two factors together, if you have skillful participation in the work of leadership, it leads you towards high leadership capacity, inevitably, sustainably. And I am so proud that that work is under lines, a lot of the work you're doing here. Teacher leadership, of course, came out of that as the core of this movement. And can we believe that at one time we even thought that there was only one leader in the school, maybe two, school secretary and the principal. And when we opened our minds and said, look, the school is full of leaders. How are we going to rethink and reorganize our work and our sharing of expertise in the way we did? I think the teacher leadership, the leadership capacity, the redefining leadership, and organic change came together and have been sort of the heart of what's driven my work for these many years. The next one I would add, and the last one I was at, is a colleague and I in the early 90s also began to research women in leadership. And so then published a book called Women's Ways of Leading. And in Women's Ways of Leading, like the rubric we have in other books, we took a look at the evolution of women from the time they may be more silent, more passive, had not found their voice yet, until the point where they're at that last area of understanding and collaborating, but also having a good sense of identity and a sense of self, as well as a sense of interdependence with the world. So that's been an important, particularly as we've raised daughters and granddaughters, many of them, not quite as many as Mary has, but that's been an important part. So I would just leave you with a couple of further thoughts. One is that writing those 3 novels came out of the Women's Ways of Leading, that I wanted to write fiction, historical fiction. I'd been a history teacher to begin with, about the evolution of a woman, in this case Justine, who's an anthropologist, the evolution of a woman who moves through many stages of development. And so this was the vehicle for doing that. So let me just leave you with a few of my most treasured lessons in this process. This is short. Each of my ideas did arise out of epiphanies, sometimes in the shower, sometimes in the middle of a conversation, sometimes while I was driving, and then things sort of fall back in place. But I would say that an epiphany is just a hunch unless you pursue research to try to figure it out and find out if that works, if that makes sense. The epiphany notion, if you haven't been writing, and I would say to you, don't say you're a writer, just write. But the other day I was talking to a very accomplished young woman, and she said, but I don't write. And I said, well, have you had insights? Have you had moments in which something becomes clear? I said, just write those down. Use that as a skeleton for your writing. And when you fill those in, you'll have a great piece of writing. To deeply understand education. This is, I feel strongly about everything. What am I saying? To deeply understand education, read the research and literature outside of education, particularly science, literary fiction, and history. And from those areas, you pull the deeper understanding that fleshes out your ideas about learning and leading and teaching. Never say I'm not a writer. I've said that one. Travel to other cultures, particularly for your children, and make it cultures that are different from your own, where you learn a lot about yourself and a lot about each other. And structure your life around an interlocking network of sustaining values and relationships. Mentor others along the way. Trust yourself and your colleagues, and learn something every day, if only because it's joyful. Thank you.
Well, to provide perspectives from two long-term partners, it's my honor to introduce representatives from two individuals that have long-term perspectives on our Academy partnership. So Dr. Beth Hudson, Interim Superintendent from Geary County Schools, the site of the most academies to date. And she will be followed by Mr. Greg Hoyt, currently principal at Manhattan High School and a graduate of the very first academy. And as Beth comes up, you might want to find Greg's picture in your program.
Well, I will be very brief as well. I think Dr. Mercer just said we've been so fortunate to be a leader in the area of starting these academies, and my topic was, why would you do this? Why would you partner with the university? And I think that Dr. Lambert does such a nice job of saying that's why we partner. All those things that we learned from her, why we partner. As we look back, we've had 8 academies. We have had 127 people, as I counted, go through those because we've had great record keepers in Dr. Devon and Dr. Gustafson. And from those, as I was looking, we have 60 people currently in our district who are employed now in some leadership capacity, whether it be a coach, whether it be a principal, an assistant principal. That doesn't account for all those folks like Mrs. Arjona who have retired, the people that have moved on to other places and have had the good fortune to be into another place. So when we look back, we have so much that we've accomplished through these academies that wouldn't probably occur otherwise. So we have leaders in place to help facilitate and support and lead, just as Linda Lambert just talked about. I hope that you will take a good look at this booklet. For those people who have been through the academies, this is such a great record of that whole process. So I hope you will celebrate the significance of what you've been involved in. And we appreciate the leadership opportunities that we've had. We've also had good people like Nate Downs come to us through other academies. So thanks to all for the work that you've done. Wow, you've paved the way for us, and we're so proud to have those leaders in our district, so thank you.
Well, I too will try to be very brief. I do want to say that I'm extremely humbled to be invited to be up here as a representative of the first PALA class, because I can guarantee you unequivocally there were better people in that class than me. People that have been inducted to the Kansas Teachers Hall of Fame, Mr. Armendariz, others that have gone on to be superintendents, district level representatives. So humbled, but also very grateful. That first class was sold to participants as we want a build your own leadership program. We want to cultivate future leaders in our own district so we can bring them up through the ranks. So math is in my background, but I may not know everybody who's gone through an academy, but I did count, of the building leadership in our district, 3 Manhattan Ogden, 50% of the building principals are academy graduates. In education, we call that evidence. That's evidence of success. Personally, for me, the learning and collaboration didn't stop when we graduated from our academy. I cannot tell you, and I cannot count the number of colleagues that I have in other districts from that first academy experience, that for the past 15 years I've had regular ongoing conversations continuing. So the learning doesn't stop. It's not stagnant. It continues on and on. I would be very remiss if I didn't mention, and this is going to be a repeat, some of the giants personally for me, and I think for other Academy members, and for me personally it starts with Dr. Dan Young, who was my superintendent of schools at the time. Our district, as the other 2 partnering districts, each had 8 participants. I can tell you for sure there were more than 8 applicants for a spot to represent USD 383, and outside evaluators probably would not have included me in the top 8 of our district, but Dan Young saw something in me and believed in me and gave me an opportunity. So he was a launching pad for my career. Dr. Teresa Miller, who was our associate principal when I began the program, became principal during the time that I was in the program, served as my mentor as I went through. Really the first administrator that I worked with that taught me leadership does matter. Leadership matters. It's extremely important. Dr. David Thompson, who was just has always been a fabulous cheerleader and supporter of mine and continues to provide me with inspiration. Dr. David Griffin, who wasn't a formal part of the academy experience, but let me tell you, if something went amiss and somebody needed to come in and pinch hit for an evening, that guy was there to do it in the drop of a hat. And I got to know David quite well through his children being in our school. And for those of you who know Dr. David Griffin, he was the one that really reinforced with me, and it applies to leadership. With great power comes great responsibility. Others that were influential throughout the academy experience for myself and others, Drs. Bailey, Dr. Stewart, Dr. Wilson, Dr. Shoup. But the one that has made the biggest impact, unquestionably, and when you talk about having an exponential influence, you just think about the impact that one person has on a group of 8 or a group of 24, and those 24 go out and they influence 24, and those 24 go out and influence 24. That's Dr. Mary Devon, and that is the body of work that she has done throughout the course of all the academies that have occurred. So to all of you, thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Greg. So the Partnership Academy model has expanded beyond our state borders. We put together a brochure highlighting some of the qualities and the benefits and the evidence, Greg, of the Academy model. And that was seen by colleagues in North Dakota. And they contacted us, and they have greetings to share about how exponentially the Academy model continues to impact.
Hello, I'm David Flowers, and first just let me say how proud I am to be a Kansas State University alum. Mom.
Hi, I'm Ann Clapper. I'm a faculty member here at KSU, and we wouldn't be part of the celebration tonight if it hadn't been for all the help and guidance from Kansas State on our academy model for North Dakota.
Dan informed me that the model has received a prestigious award that we'd like to tell you about.
Yes, and actually I'll show it right here. It was one of the governor's award, and it's the Sodbuster Award. And I found out just probably a week and a half ago when I was asked to go to Bismarck to be part of this, and my dean was kind of like, it's like, would you just go? And I was like, sure. And then she told me that we were going to get this award. But the story behind this award was that the Sodbuster Award is about having a growth mindset and having innovation. And I accepted the award for both Dr. Hall and myself. Dr. Hall retired in August and then left the country. I hope that wasn't decided. Anyway, so I accepted this wonderful award on behalf of Tom Hall as well. But the first thing I said was we would not have been here and this being able to have this award if it hadn't been for the leadership and the support of Kansas State University. So we're sharing, this is not just our award, this is one that we're going to share with you because we, as I said to the governor and to the people in the audience that day, this relationship and the support from Kansas State has made all the difference in the world.
So, hello to my K-State friends, and thank you very much, and congratulations to you, Dr. Devon, and to everyone that had helped pioneer this model in Kansas. Just know that it's thriving and well in North Dakota.
I agree with everything he said, and I wish I was there if there's cake.
Cookies.
Yeah, this we thought about it, but schedule-wise, but hope this will be close enough to understand our heartfelt gratefulness for your guidance and your continued friendship as we move down this path together.
So birth, preschool, through graduate school and beyond is truly a learning continuum, and it's a journey that we can't go on alone. It truly takes a partnership, and I think that the Partnership Academy model that we've just heard described from so many perspectives this evening exemplifies that belief. So Commissioner Watson and the State Board of Education have charted a very bold path for education in the state of Kansas. And it became evident very early that bold leadership was needed to carry out that bold vision. And Commissioner Watson, I think we have that bold leadership in this room, and we're excited to go on that journey with you. So on behalf of the students in Kansas classrooms, I want to thank you for your commitment to learning, to your dedication to student success, and for your advocacy for our profession. Your voice is needed. So thank you very much for attending today, and thank you for your dedication.